insurance quote is yet? I'll just put.
I reckon I should be able to get. It for about works out to be about 120 a month. I've found a place that is really good.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty decent.
It is, yeah, because I got the Sea Line for $97 a month.
Yeah, right, yeah, cool. Alright. And fuel, 150 per month, did you say, for fuel?
150, yeah, I reckon it'll be.
Yeah, okay, so that makes it on average about 5 litres per 100, roughly.
Yeah. It'll be, it's more than that, but it's hard because obviously electric offset.
Yeah.
It's crazy for me because I thought I'd use more, but I've certainly used a lot less than expected.
Yeah. It's good how they've got Ironman as well. That's combined. So if you want any accessories on this car, it's going to be 100% pre-tax as well.
Yeah. No, I get that.
So, for its tyres. So tax savings are 36,100 over the lease term.
Yeah.
Residuals 16,472 ex GST, so 16,472 times 1.1. It's about 18 grand, including GST at the end.
Okay.
I was talking to marketing. And this guy that runs a YouTube channel, he's going to buy a Shark. Do you want to do anything with him?
Guys, well, this is something I didn't expect to happen. I mean, sure, I was thinking about the Shark for a while. One of the reasons why I actually bought a BYD is because I had every future intention to take up a true hybrid EV vehicle off-road, which is kind of what I do in my summer season, my spring, summer, and autumn seasons of the year, enjoying the outdoors, going out camping, forward driving, and a lot of my R&R actually comes from doing a lot of these trips out in the high country. But I actually first looked at the BYD Seal, and I was going to take the leap into EV vehicles a couple of years ago. But something happened, and I mean, I took a test drive for the Seal. I loved it. There was nothing to hate about it except for range anxiety. And many people that would have followed my videos on this channel would have learned that I do a lot of random trips, and I just can't rely on the necessity to suddenly need a charge. If I've got to do 300 Ks, I may not have that range. And I have detailed before, sure, you've got fast charging, you can just, you've got all these options where you can charge, but I just didn't want to put myself in that position where that's something I would have to face in the midst of the work that I do. So I kind of gave the Seal a miss, and I thought I could see it in the future. You could have a lifted all-wheel drive vehicle, take it off-road, that's EV based, and it'd be great. Everything's awesome, but not so much. If you're actually a person that four-wheel drives and goes off-road and does real touring, you can't plan your trip. You just never can. It's every trip that I've taken where it's been planned has been altered in some degree or another, some in a very minor way, others in a very serious way. And if you relied on only battery out there as it stands, it wouldn't work. You'd open yourself up to too many concerns and the possibility of actually having return to home anxiety, really. So when the seat line came along, I was skeptical, not because of the brand and not because of anything to do with the fact that it was made in China, and I mean everything's made in China, guys, but like the fact that it's come from China and it's their concept, their design. Many of you would know the Seal line here in Australia, I should say Seal line 6 here in Australia, is what I would consider the second generation Seal line, because even though it's new to Australia this year, Many don't realise that the Seal line actually existed overseas for quite a few years as the Seal U, and I think there's some other names that they branded it in other countries. So when I bought the Seal line, I went in thinking, yep, the Seal Line 6 is a generation 2. A lot of its small issues have been tweaked in the use of in other countries, and we're getting it here in Australia with some minor modifications to make it suited for Australia. And I felt comfortable buying it. It was actually an easy buy. The price point was good. What you get out of it was good. I was comfortable. After I test drive, I just thought, this is a really nice car. It can replace my daily, and I'll actually get fuel savings out of this since I can charge at home, and I have all this solar home battery and everything like that. That you guys, if you've been watching, you've seen, and I've explained before, so I won't explain it again. But obviously I knew the Shark was coming. I've known the Shark has been coming for about just over a year, I think it was. I think it is, just thinking about it. It's hard for me to exactly remember. And I thought, yeah, look, that's ages away, and who knows, that could be 2 or 3 years away when I was thinking about it originally. So I bit the bullet and bought the Sea Line, which happened only about 2 months ago. My experience in the first 7,000 Ks of the Seal line has just been superb. I can't fault many things, and the things I can fault are not things that are not negotiable. Like, they're very small things that will be fixed by software updates, and I think ultimately, for the money you're spending, you're getting a vehicle really, really featured, packed with tech, usability and economy. Like, it really has hit a savings for me that I never thought I actually would get in a car. So, and zero. There's been never a time where I've had range anxiety, and that's simply because it's so seamless. You do your 70 or 80 Ks a day in EV, and then you come home, you plug in, you're charged within 2 hours if you've got a 7K charger at home on a single phase, or you charge by the morning if you chuck it on at night when you get home from work and have a normal 10 amp, an 8 amp wall charger that just charges the car off your regular power point. So the Seal Line 6 was a really, really good baseline for me to determine, do I actually want a Shark? Can I actually use a Shark? And last night, you guys would have seen, I posted a video really quickly about my experience at the Shark 6 launch. I didn't even have to look at the vehicle really to decide I'm going to place a deposit, and I'm going to jump in the line and take the leap. Now that I've actually looked at the vehicle, I've gone through what my options are, thought about it like a normal adult should. Nothing's changed. I'm still going to get it. The question I have is whether or not I'll keep the Sea Line alongside the Shark. That I'm not sure about just yet. That's something I'm figuring out, simply because we don't know what the fuel figures are going to look like in the Shark 6. It's a heavy vehicle, and I want to use it for doing the commutes, and my original purpose for looking for a FEV vehicle was to drop my costs. Now, if I buy the Shark and replace the Sea Line 6 as my daily, I don't know what I'm opening myself up to for fuel figures. So I've decided what I'll do is I'll get the Shark, and I'll use both vehicles for maybe about 2 months during the summer season. I'll use my Sea Line mostly when I'm out here doing my commutes on the road, and I'll use my Shark when I'm going to go do anything to do with my forward drive touring stuff. So I might go down to Bass, as you guys would know, and go to the workshop there. I actually think the Shark can also power my single phase hoist. It really, really comes down to what the inrush capacity is on the 240 volt system that it supplies. They say you can do up to 6K on the 3 power points. My hoist is a 10 amp plug, so fingers crossed I plug it into one and it'll do the inrush load and continue to supply concurrent supply to the hoist and actually lift it. And if it does that, that ticks one problem that I've had to think about, because I've been trying to work out how I can run my hoist at the workshop down at Bass without the generator. This might be a thing. So it'll be interesting to see if that works. Not a deal breaker, but it's a pro that comes on my list. The second thing is the Shark 6 actually comes with a I think it's a 30 kilowatt hour battery. So it's as opposed to the 18 kilowatt that's in the Sea Lion, but I think that's scaled to make sure you get anywhere around about 80 to 100 kilometer range EV only, so off the battery. Now, if that is in fact what I get, anywhere between 80 and 100, I'm going to be over the moon, because that will be perfect. And all the other features that come with the Shark 6 are just going to be stuff that's going to improve what I currently do in my peak season for my four-wheel drive and camping content that I do on another channel, which you guys might want to check out. It's just called All Terrain Action. If you're unfamiliar, a really brief backstory. The car I'm in now is a Holden Adventurer, and in 2002 Holden started marketing this vehicle for a soft road vehicle that goes off-road, and it kind of flopped. It was compared against the Ford Territory, the Toyota Kluger way back then, and I think the Ford Territory technically won the battle when they did kind of the side-by-side test. But these tests were done by people that really only drive them on the road and on some dirt roads. They didn't actually take them off-road and test them properly. So I kind of picked up, I've always wanted one of these vehicles when I was 18. It's the first car that I wanted when I first got my license. It was out of reach for me. It was a bit expensive. I just couldn't make it work. And I actually managed later in my life, when what was it, 2016, I got my hands on my first Adventurer, and ever since then, this is what I've taken off-road, these Adventurers. They're basically a Holden Commodore that is permanent all-wheel drive with a center differential that splits the torque, but it's all mechanical, so it's not a part-time system in any sense. And what actually makes this vehicle really good off-road is the traction control system. And I'm not talking about the traction control system that you might be familiar with. That is like the ESP, ESC, where you're under and oversteer, and it breaks a wheel to try and keep the car in control. I'm talking about true off-road traction control. That is when you're off-road and your car is lifting a wheel completely off the ground, whether it's one wheel or two wheels off each axle, and the car driving through that. Now, many all-wheel drive systems, permanent I'm talking about, that don't have an off-road traction control system actually struggles with this type of activity when it comes to the really articulated off-road terrain. So when you've got something off-road where you're driving through it and you've got a wheel that comes off the ground on either the front or either the back axle, a lot of all-wheel drive will actually come to a halt. Even though you've got power to each wheel, it's because of the way physics work and how differentials work under the car. And I'm not going to go into that in this video. That's something that we can probably detail in another video if people are interested. And there is plenty of content online to explain this also, guys. But what makes this vehicle really good is the fact that the traction control system in it works really well off-road. The system that's actually in this car, which was produced in 2002 up until 2005, it works almost equivalent to the traction control system they started putting in the Toyota Hiluxes and the Prados from around about 2020 onwards. So, and I actually bought a Toyota Fortuner that had this exact same off-road traction control system that Toyota calls it A-Track, and not the early version A-Track that they had in 2015. I can't let people get confused by that. The A-Track that came out in the 2.8 litre Hilux, Prado, Fortuner motor that the refined one that they released later on. That A-Track that came with those vehicles actually outperforms the Adventurer's Crosstrack, is what they call it. So these Crosstrack, Adventurer, A-Track, Toyota, these are just names that manufacturers use for their traction control system off-road. And Toyota's one's more superior just because of its, I guess it's programming. It's a little bit more refined than the Adventurer. It kicks in better. You get more of that hoppy motion before it actually gets traction and starts breaking through the obstacle. Now, the reason why I'm telling you guys this is because BYD have actually launched the Shark 6 as an all-wheel drive vehicle, and that surprised me because I expected to see a 4x4 badge on it. Not necessarily a 4-wheel drive badge on it, but a 4x4 badge on it, just to stipulate that it's 4 powered wheels by 4 wheels that are on the vehicle, and they didn't. Instead, they chucked DMO, so dual motor off-road, unlike Seal Lion 6, which is DMI, dual motor intelligence. And I think the dual motor comes from the fact you've got your petrol and your electric motor. I think that's what the term dual motor comes together as. I've come to that conclusion because even the two-wheel drive Sea Line 6 is still a DMI, and that only has a front-wheel drive system with a ICE engine and electric engine. So my presumption is DM, dual motor, ICE, electric, intelligence for Sea Line, off-road for Shark 6, and this system that it's in the Shark is just a bigger version of what we have in the Sea Line 6. More power and a more refined, probably, traction control system at a guess. I've only seen one video online from a local group, Aussie Arvos here in Melbourne, who actually managed to test drive the Shark 6, which I'm crazily jealous about, because that's, you know, I really wanted to really feel how that vehicle would perform off-road in articulated situation, and they kind of got that opportunity. But in their video, I noticed that when the traction control system was kind of working, their response to how it works kind of told me that they have no experience in how the traction control systems work off-road. They're very familiar with your front and rear diff locks more than using brake lock differential mechanics.
You know what? It's funny there because you can see, like, with the IRS, obviously it picks up a wheel pretty easy, and you think you just, I'm free spinning, but then you feel all like the brakes and the motors like all kick in, and all of a sudden it's like you've got lockers. It's just like, and it just pulls you up and over. That's so awesome.
Something I've learnt with these traction control based off-road vehicles is if you gut the throttle full noise, because as you're starting to slow down going up a hill where it's scrabbly and you're losing traction and you get wheels coming up off the ground, a human reaction is when your speed starts to wash off, you put your foot down. You want to go faster, so you put your foot down. With these traction control systems, you actually need to only gradually put your foot down to kind of tell the system you want to go more, so it can start braking the wheels and pushing power to the wheel that actually has traction. So I'm in the belief, after seeing that video from Aussie Arvos and just talking to people from BYD about the Shark 6, that I think it's going to be a good contender in the off-road market. Not necessarily for the rock crawling stuff, because it doesn't have a low range, and I presume the downhill assist, the downhill descent will have a lot to do with kinetic braking. I think, like, it's these questions didn't get answered to me. No one could answer these questions. I asked quite a few questions last night at the launch, and everyone only had marketing answers. No one actually had technical answers. I was actually surprised by that, because I feel like getting these technical answers is what a lot of off-road enthusiasts are going to need to know before they go take 60 grand off me and give me a car. The car is priced really well, especially the introductory offer. That's a really good price, but still, BYD, we needed to know technical aspects of it. Is there a traction control system in there that's working, that's doing this brake brake lock action to kind of make the vehicle perform off-road and articulated situations when you've got a wheel or two up. You know, how does the hill descent work? You got no low range in it, so what are we relying on to go down a hill? Hopefully not just the brakes. I'm very familiar with all this because this car was a vehicle that, if I may say, came out into the market when other vehicles already existed to go off-road, but they did something different with this vehicle. It didn't have a dual range box, so there was no low range. It didn't have any fancy features that the Land Cruisers and the Patrols were coming out with, that those big brands focused on saying, this is, you know, this is Australia, these vehicles are made, you know, to wheel in Australia. But why? What makes them a vehicle to wheel in Australia? Tell me. Now, they didn't do that with the Adventurer. They actually, the marketing on this car in 2002, 2003 really sucked. I've seen every commercial, I've seen every press video that they released at the time, and I wholly believe the reason this car failed in the market has everything to do with the marketing. It flopped because of that. Now, will Shark 6 be similar to that? I don't think so. But they've started really rough in the marketing. End of the day, I'm more trying to say, and I'm trying to tell you guys, I think I'm the person for the job. Bought an unconventional vehicle that the manufacturer thought this would be great for an off-road vehicle. Marketing flopped. People's perception of the vehicle, because it looks small and not high enough, even though this has more clearance than a lot of four drives, just went sideways. No one wanted to hand money over and go, I want that vehicle. There is people wanting to do that, sorry, should I say, for the BYD Shark 6, but they're doing that because it's a new type of vehicle in the market. And it is crazy because these people that want to just hand over the money and buy this vehicle, are these vehicles that actually, are these owners that like actually want to use them for off-road? Or are they people that just want to use them, maybe tradies, for example, or people that need to move stuff in a tray and want the capacity of the dual cab utes? Because in Australia, dual cab utes have become a family choice vehicle more than a utility vehicle. We founded our dual cab utes here in Australia primarily for utility use, and they've just formed themselves over time to be a family vehicle. So I'm not a huge fan of dual cab utes, believe it or not, but it's the first PHEV true EV only mode, true hybrid mode, and since I've used the C-Line 6's DMI system, I have a very, very high expectation of how this is going to work, and can see it. I can put it together in my mind, and I can see how this is going to work off-road, where you can only go to a fuel servo, put your 60 litres of fuel in to your Shark, drive into the forest, and not plan to come out of the forest for a week. And there's no servos. You're doing maybe 100 kilometers an hour of treacherous off-road conditions. So that's, you know, off-road terrain, ruts, river crossings, and just obstacles that you don't know what you're going to face going through, because it's different almost every time you go through it, even on the same tracks. I can see it. This is the future of both on-road and off-road, or hybrid lifestyle, and you're going to see it here in all-terrain action.